Hi, I'm Marcus from Marcus Crafts. I want to share with you some of my knitting and crocheting that I've done since the beginning of the year because I haven't really been on here. Just the times, it's very hard for me to record. I hate to record when there's someone else down here with me, and I have very little time when I'm down here by myself. So this morning I had a few minutes and I thought I'd share them with you of what I've been working on since the beginning of the year, it seems. The first thing that I have that I'm going to start off with my finished items. I think these both are, most of my things that I have are new starts to show you. And so the first thing I have is some of the slippers. I have actually two of these, two sets. I have the men's for my husband. Like I had made him the pair before, and then I got the women's pattern. I haven't put the bottoms on them yet. The women's ones are the Women's Loafer Sleepers by Monique Ray, and the yarn that I used was the Patton's Classic Wool in Chestnut Tweed. And the needle size that I used was a US 11 or 8.0 millimeters. And that are I had made these before in a different color too. And the men's are the men's loafer slippers by Monique Ray, and it's the same colorway. The Peyton's North American Classic Wool in the tweed. Chestnut tweed, the US 11 or 8.0 millimeters. They're just a real dark brown with some flecks in it. And I think because I always thought that all of these were, the classic wools were 100% wool, and this wasn't. I think it was either 80 or 90% wool. So it took a little longer. They did felt, but it just took these ones a little longer to felt. And I still have the, I put the leather bottoms on them, so I still have to put the bottoms on both of these. The next thing I have is my brown silk hat, and it's by Silk Surrey Hat by Bobby Intvelt, Intvelt. And it's just a simple knit, you know, the ribbing, and it's a very slouchy hat. And with it being the silk and the bamboo, it makes it really, really slouchy. When I wear this one, I have to sometimes check to make for sure it's still on my head when I wore it the last time. Because you don't feel anything on your head. It's just really light. And after that, I did a matching cowl for it. And it's the Diamond Leaf Cowl by Darlene Joyce. And the yarn is still the Patton's Silk Bamboo in Bark. And I used the US 7 on this. On the hat, I used the US 5, which is a 3.75 millimeter, and a US 9, which is 5.5 millimeters. Let's just take it off. This is just something I bought at Walmart's to display it when I'm not wearing it. And it blocked out really nice. There's the pattern for it. All I did for this one, when I soaked it and then I just laid it out. I didn't do any pinning on it. And it's really drapey too when you have it on. And it just sits real nice on like that. Okay, the next thing that I have finished is a pair of socks for my husband, and it's just the just the plain vanilla sock in the with the Fish Lips Kiss heel. I have them both. So it's just the Fish Lips Kiss heel with just I did 6 inches down and then put the heel in, and then I did his foot and my normal toe that I like. It's more of a rounded toe, which is the toe pattern for the Hermione's Everyday Socks. And the yarn that I used on this is the Peyton's Croy Socks striped and Singing the Blues, and a US 2 or 2.75 millimeters. So I just wanted to try some vanilla socks and see how we like them. So that's a pair of socks for him, all done. And while I'm at it, I have another pair of socks that I made for myself. And these are just another vanilla socks. These are mine. They're showing up blue, but they're a teal color. And they are the Cascade Heritage in Teal Mix. It's just a vanilla sock with the Fish Lips Kiss heel and the toe by the Hermione's Everyday pattern. And I used a 1.5 millimeter needle, which is a 2.5 millimeter. It's a 2.5 millimeter. I used a US 1.5. Okay, and that's my socks. Those are all done. And I just did the same thing. I did like a 1.5 inch rib. Then I finished 5.5 inches or 4.5 inches before I started the heel. So the total leg is 6 inches. Fish Lips Kiss heel, went down the foot, then put on the Hermione's Everyday sock for my toe. Okay, that's done. I'm looking down because I have everything written down, so I'm trying not to forget anything. Okay, and I finished my husband's gray sweater, which is the Tin Can Knits Flax, and I used the Loops and Thread Value Pack in gray. And the needles that I used was a US 6 4.0 millimeters and a US 8 5.0 millimeters. Oh, and I also used, I don't remember what it is, some yarn that I got from Michael's to do a striping, because I knew I wouldn't have enough yarn to finish the whole sweater. So I did the striping on the arm and across the chest. And I did this one a little different. I made it just for the bottom, the ribbing in the bottom and the ribbing on the sleeves. I made them longer than what the pattern called for, and so that I don't know, I didn't like it was a smaller ribbing, and I like a longer ribbing on a sweater. And just the striping. And I didn't do the patterning down the sleeve. I just did the plain knit and made it just into just a plain sweater. And what I did was I did the pattern going across the ribbing, the color change going across the front. Around the chest and around the sleeves of the arm. So that one's done. And I did the tumblers with the, I'm trying to use up my scrap yarn. So I did 2 tumblers. This is one, it's the Mio or Mayo tumbler. I got this one off of Amazon. And this one is just a tumbler. These are just decorations in my craft room. This one is a tumbler I got from the Dollar Tree. And all I did was just knit a tube to the one, you know, to make it fit. This one, I even did it had a bottom, you know, just the bottom. So I did the Kitchener stitch on the bottom. This one has a hole that it screws into. So I just pulled the thread through to seal up the bottom of that one to make it fit. And I'm not going to use these. These are just for decorations in my craft room with the different socks that I'm making. And I have one more tumbler that I found at Walmart's. And I'm going to use this tumbler to make some more. And they're all different yarns. They don't have the same yarn. When I pull a yarn, I put it in a different spot so I don't reuse it in the tumblers. The next one I have is a shawl that I worked on for a Ravelry group. And it is, they knit too. And it is a shawl along that they're having, and you can knit or crochet. So I had an idea. I was going to do, I was already wanting to do a virus shawl. And then one of the members in the group, one of the administrators in the group, showed, she just put a sample up of a shawl to begin the you know, just for the first thread. And it was, I loved it. And I went to look it up, and it was called, this shawl is called Margaret's Hug Healing Shawl, or a prayer shawl. So I had to make it when I saw the name of it. And this is done out of the Loops and Thread Value Pack. And this is a crochet, and it's done in black and a 6.5 millimeter. Now I haven't blocked it. I'm going to steam block it because I want this shawl to just be just a huge shawl that, like, when I sit out on the porch at night or in the evenings when it's a little cool, I can have something across me. So I love the way it came out. And this is it. And I'm just going to fold it in half. I made it longer than the pattern called for. I made it till I finished up all of my thread, because I want it to hang down real far in the back to cover my back when I'm sitting outside. And it's a really pretty pattern. I don't know if you can see it. I think it's a 2-row repeat. I don't remember when I made it, but I love how it came out. And then you put the little scallops on the edging. So I'm going to, when I steam this, I'm going to steam it. Make sure these points stick out. And that's going up the back. It has the bigger holes going up the back. And it's comes to a point. What is this, a triangle shawl? I don't make shawls, so I don't know. But it's lovely. The yarn came out nice and thick, the way that the pattern is. So I put it on, and this is so warm. So I can't wait to sit out on the porch when it gets a little bit warmer. We've had some warm days, and it was too warm for that. So, but we're getting into some more warmer days and cooler evenings. So when I sit outside, I like to sit outside, especially early in the mornings on the weekends, to just do a little bit of knitting and crocheting or something, whatever I want to do on the weekend. And I finally finished my husband's throw. This is the basket weave throw by Bonnie Baker. Oh, I'm sorry. The Margaret Shaw was by Heather C. Gibbs. And now this is the basket weave throw by Bonnie Baker, and I used the Red Heart with Love and lettuce and water lily. And I used a USI, which is a 5.5 millimeter, and a USJ, which is a 6.0 millimeter. And I finally got it finished. And like everybody said, I've read where everybody's middle is a little wobbly. So I'm going to try it on that shawl. I'm going to try it on a smaller, I'm going to just crochet up something and try to steam block it, because I have a steamer that I use when I wash my quilts, my wall quilts. I wash them and then I let them dry, and then I have a big steamer with a handle that you can go up and down, and I usually steam my quilts like that, or sometimes I just put them in a dryer and then I'll use the steamer to just refresh them, because a lot of my quilts are just wall quilts. And I've gotten the edging done. All of the rows are done. And it's very thick. As you can see through the back. This is the back of it, and you can hardly see through it, because mainly it's just like single crochets. Let's see where I was before. I think this is the only thing that I had between that. The gray sweater of my husband's, when I showed it the last time, I just had a little bit of the striping that I put across the chest, and the sleeves were on stitch needle holders. Okay, this one I was here, right where this little tag is, in the background. So I did the rest of all of this, and then did the edging, and did both, went down and put the last of the rows in. See, this one rolls over too. So I want to steam that one so it lays flat. And got the other side edging done too. I didn't even notice. I'm down. This is the only leftovers that I have to weave in. Because what I did was, it was all in one color, and I did it in two colors. And where I have just this one ridge is the only thing that I did the extra color in, to add some coloring and to separate it. And this is the quilt. I mean the throw. It's not a Afghan. It's just a throw. It's small. Just to put over his lap when he's sitting in the chair taking a nap or something after his treatments. So that's done. And let's see. And I also started working on, where did I put them? Right here. If you saw on Instagram, I'm Margaret's Crafts on Instagram. On Instagram, Facebook, everywhere I'm Margaret's Crafts. I started making these little mini sweaters out of the yarn that I use to make, if I made a sweater, this is like the sweater that I made for my husband. And the mini sweaters are Tiny Sweaters by Malia May, and it's just the scrap yarn that I made the sweaters out of. And I used a US 7 or 4.5 millimeter hook. Needle. And I have sweaters for all the sweaters that I made in this scrap yarn. And then I'm just getting started on doing the hats. And the hats are Bright Hats Garland by Scarlett Taylor. And it's also just in the scrap yarns. And this didn't have a pattern. I just made it up for the cow, because this is a hat and cow that I had made for one of my sons. So the cow didn't get a lot of the light colors because of where it fell in. And I have a garland hanging up in my room, and those are the garland. And these are some of the socks. What I'm doing is I'm making socks out of the scrap yarn of all the socks that I've made for anyone. And the mini socks are the mini socks by Stacy Trock, Trock. And I believe I'm using between a US 0 and a US 2. It depends on what the yarn is made out of. I switched over to a 2 because it makes a little bit bigger a sock to hang up. But what I've done is I have a little piece of the plastic that I buy at the Dollar Tree for the chopping mats. And I just lay each of the socks out because it depends on what size needle I'm using. I lay the sock down and trace over it and then cut inside the line to make it a little smaller. And then I take a magic marker and I write down, you can't really see it, the name of the yarn and the color, who I made it for, and when I finished it. And these are like little keepsakes that I'm doing. And I'm going to do a little tag inside the sweaters and the hats. They're going to have little tags inside of them made out of the same plastic so it doesn't get messed up. And then just, using, the little pins and pin it to the inside, because they keep their shape already. So these are the ones I made. I haven't even hung them up yet. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 15 socks. Even the heavier socks, like this. This is what I used a size 0 on because this was a DK weight, but I didn't want a big sock. So I started making it, and then I switched down to a US 0 to make a smaller sock. So here's the sock that I had just made for myself, and here's the sock I made for my husband, socks. So, and then I just have these mini little clothespins. I have them different kinds. And I just use these mini clothespins that I picked up at Target. And they say spring on them. And I just pull that off and flip it to the backwards. And I have them hanging on a cord in my room. And I want to make a sock for each sock that I've made, a sweater for each sweater. So far, I do have 1, 2, 3, 4 sweaters. I need to make one more sweater. And I only have the one hat in the one cow. So I have to get busy and make some more of them. But these are going to be hanging across different things like the entranceway to my room. I'm going to put up a little cording across there. Well, what I bought was, when I was at a store that we have, they have these lights. And they're solar powered. So they do work by the light in the room keeps them charged. And at night they come on. And I'm just going to do my little clothespins to the little cord, and the little lights come on. Let me see. If I can get the battery pack to work. I don't know if you can see the little lights are on. So the little lights come on. And I'm going to hang my little sweaters and stuff with the little clothespins from the light switches. Just another little decoration in my room. And that's that. Okay, let me see if I got everything. Sweater, socks. Okay, that's all that I have finished. Now what I'm working on. I have a pair of gray simple rib socks that I make all the time. This is a pattern that they love because it kind of like hugs their leg and their foot. So I do them concurrently, 2 at a time, 2 at the same time. So I don't get second sock syndrome. And that's, let's see. There you go. And this is, like I said, a simple rib sock. And the yarn that I'm using is the Peyton's Croy in flax. And the needle, I'm using a US 2 or 2.75 millimeters. So I do the ribbing and I think it's 1.5 inches of ribbing and 1.5 inches so far to make it the 3 inches. And then I switch over and I pick up the other sock and I'll do it the same way. And when I get to 3 inches, then I'll pick this sock up and I'll do another 3 inches to the heel. Then I'll work this from 3 inches of the heel. Then I'll put a heel in and put a heel in, then work 3 inches going back and forth down the foot till I get to the toe. Then I'll put one toe in and put the other toe in. So I'm working them together. And these are just the socks I use as my carry with me stuff. So they get worked on slower. So it takes me a little bit longer. They're not my main focus anymore where my socks used to be. Because we have a lot of socks now. So I can take my time, and it may take me a couple months to do a pair of socks, but that's okay. And the last thing that I have that I'm working on is a black and gray virus shawl. And it's the virus shawl pattern by Julia Marguerite. And I'm using Premier Yarn Sweet Rose. And so far I've gotten 3 balls in, and I'm using the 4th ball now. I mean, that's going to be it. And it is in the black pepper swirl, and I'm using a USH or 5.0 millimeter hook. So here's the sweet roll. Only thing I don't like about these collapse faster than the when you roll it yourself, when you make your own cake. So this is my virus shawl. And I want it also to be extra long. That's why I made it even bigger. And all of these, like I said, I'm going to practice on some scrap yarn first to see about steaming them, because I don't want to over steam it to make it hard and crunchy, but just enough so it'll block out nicely. Because I want these swoops to block out down at the bottom. And I want to open up these stitches. But that's my virus shawl. I like how it's coming out. And like I said, this one won't be as warm as my Margaret's Hug, because that one, the stitch makes it real, real, real thick. But that's it. And it's longer than my arm span already. It's going to be a real long one. I still have more room over there, and I'm still not done. I'm going to put this in, and this is going to be the last of it. And however big that makes it, that's going to be how it is. Hopefully I'll finish this today. And when I finish this, I have a another flax that I'm working on for myself this time. And I'm not going to have the pattern going down the sleeve, but I'm thinking of doing I'm changing it up a little bit. So I'll show you that when I start working on it. And the last thing that I have are the things that I've bought this month, or these past few months. And the first thing I bought was some the Cairn cakes, and I bought it in pistachio, and I bought 3. I think they were $5 a piece. And I want to make a green blanket or something, a green throw to put in here. I just have to find one that I want. I don't know exactly what I'm going to make, but it was supposed to be for in here in my craft room. So I'm thinking of some kind of a throw or afghan to put across my lap when I'm sitting in here stitching. The next thing that I bought was, I went to Tuesday Morning, and they had this Rowan Fine Arts, and this is fingering weight. It's 100 grams each, and it is, let me see, here it is, 40%, 45% wool, 20% mohair, 25% polyamide, and 10% silk. So I'm looking at a nice fingering weight shawl out of this one. It's burgundies and browns and what is that? Rose colored. So I'm thinking of a fingering weight shawl that I can make with this one. Okay, and I also bought some of this Shepherd's Own 100% natural undyed wool by Fiber Nature, and it is worsted weight, and it's 100 grams each, 252 yards. So I wanted to experiment with some dyeing. It's like a cream colored. It's supposed to be undyed. So I wanted to experiment with some dyeing to make maybe a hat or a cowl or something out of these. And I just happened to pick up some more. I got more. I put it away already. I just left the singles out of all of these. I bought 2 of each of these. Joann's had them on sale. They're the Premier Deborah Norville yarn and sock weight, fingering weight. And I have the 2 balls of the violet. Two balls of the blue marine. It looks more like a really dark gray. 2 balls of the Violas, Violas. It's got gray and dark violet and light violet. The last thing that I have to share with you is a prize that I won from Margaret Olander's, or Sheepishly Sharing videos. And I won a prize that she had on giving a comment or a tip. And the tip that I had given her was that when you're crocheting and knitting also, to pay more attention to the millimeters than the hook size, or the, than the needle size, because the different companies may do their needle size and hook size very differently. Like I told her, I had 2 eye hooks, and both eye hooks had they both said I, but they were different millimeters. So that made a big difference in my crocheting because that's what I did on my husband's thing. So one end of his, that's another reason why I want to block it. One end of his, I didn't notice, came out a little smaller than the beginning end because I was using 2 different size letter I hooks. So that was my tip for her, and I won her prize. And her prize was a knit crate box, their first crochet box. And she gave me a lovely little card, a lovely little note that I'm going to be saving that. And she gave me a little magnet. I have it up on my shelf, it's too high. And I absolutely love it. It says, knitting forever, housework whenever. And I also got a little bar of soap, handmade soap. And the soap is by Four Sisters Farm Soap it's the Oatmeal Lavender Soap. And that's the little soap that I have. And I also got 3 skeins of yarn. And I have, this is Be So Brave yarn. It's 100% pure American merino wool, 120 yards worsted weight. And this color is 08 Shining Sea, 03 Lincoln Lime, and 05 Flamingo. So let me show you closer. These are the yarns. They're absolutely beautiful. I don't know what I'm going to make with them, but I absolutely love them.